Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Azmat, Assistant Professor, Department of ENT, CAMS RC. Today, we are dealing with a subject that is most important for clinical wise as well as theory wise. That is otitis media with effusion. The topic is otitis media with effusion. It is also called as secretory otitis media and also called as mucoid otitis media, and it is also called as glue ear. So instead of giving question like otitis media with effusion, they used to give like clinical features manifestations of glue ear. So you should not confuse what is glue ear and what is serous otitis media and what is secretory otitis media. Everything is same. So the synonyms are secretory otitis media, serous otitis media, and glue ear, and secretary serous otitis media. Everything is same, so you should not confuse with the name. Okay, and it is also called as otitis media with effusion. So everything is same. You should not leave the question it was not taught, the glue ear is not taught, and we know what is otitis media with effusion, but we don't know what is mucoid otitis media. So everything is same. So this is very important to know the other synonyms also for this. For that, you should not confuse what it is given. Right. Let us see what is otitis media with effusion. When it comes to definition, this is a insidious condition where it is characterized by accumulation of non-purulent effusion in the middle ear cleft. Middle ear cleft, you know very well what is middle ear cleft, and the middle ear cleft is filled with a non-purulent effusion. Means the discharge is not a purulent material; it is non-purulent material. Okay, and the effusion, it is sometimes very thick and viscid, and but sometimes it is very thin also, like a fluid. And this is very important for MCQ question, that the fluid is always sterile. It doesn't contain any organism. Okay, so it doesn't contain any organisms. It means the fluid is always sterile. So for the definition, you can say that it is a insidious condition. It is characterized by accumulation of non-purulent effusion in the middle ear cleft. Okay, and prevalence. Where you can find this condition? It is very common in school-going children. School-going children. Okay, and it is uncommon in adults. If you see otitis media with effusion in an adult, you should think something else. So what it is, I will tell you in subsequent classes. Let us see first the remaining things. So you know definition, it is an insidious condition characterized by accumulation of non-purulent effusion in the middle ear cleft. Middle ear cleft means attic antrum and auditus. Okay, right. It is always sterile material. So the sequelae of uh, things in the otitis media with effusion. First, you will have a eustachian tube block. What are the causes for eustachian tube block? Let us see in subsequent slides. First, there will be a eustachian tube block. So due to eustachian tube block, it fails to aerate the middle ear, and it cannot able to maintain the pressure changes. So subsequently, you will have a otitis media with the effusion. So the middle ear cleft will have a fluid due to eustachian tube blockade, and subsequently this OME next leads to acute otitis media, and that acute otitis media leads to chronic otitis media. So these are the sequelae where from eustachian tube block to chronic otitis media. So what is etiology? So this is very important thing in children. the most common thing is it is malfunctioning of the eustachian tube. Why eustachian tube doesn't function? Why there is a malfunction of the eustachian tube means the most common cause is adenoid hyperplasia. You have a adenoid tissue which is a lymphoid tissue in the nasopharynx which is adjacent to the eustachian tube. When due to some allergy or due to some repeated infections, if this adenoid tissue is hypertrophied, if there is a increase in the size of the adenoid tissue, it causes closure of the eustachian tube. It causes closure of the eustachian tube. Due to closure of the eustachian tube, there will be a malfunctioning and the eustachian tube can't maintain the pressure within the middle ear cavity, middle ear cleft, and then there will be a accumulation of the fluid, and thus it leads to otitis media with effusion. So apart from the adenoid hypertrophy, what other cause? What other cause that leads to malfunctioning of the eustachian tube? And another causes are chronic rhinitis and chronic rhinosinusitis. The word rhinitis and sinusitis, now it is the same. It is called as rhinosinusitis, termed as rhinosinusitis. Apart from the adenoid hypertrophy, if you have a chronic rhinosinusitis, it leads to malfunctioning of the uh, eustachian tube. Other causes are chronic tonsillitis. If you have enlarged tonsils that mechanically obstruct the movement of the soft palate, okay, and it interferes with the physiological opening of the eustachian tube. So these nasopharynx, you have all these adenoid tissue and eustachian tube, and below that you have a palate. All these are uh, very together near parts. If you have a chronic tonsillitis, enlarged grade 3, grade 4 tonsils, where it mechanically obstructs the movement of the soft palate. So it interferes with the physiological opening of the eustachian tube. Again, if eustachian tube, again, if it is closed, then otitis media with effusion will occur. Next, the other cause is benign and malignant tumors of the nasopharynx. What are the benign and malignant tumors? Like, if you have a nasopharyngeal angiofibroma, or if you have any other tumors in the nasopharynx, if you have a malignancy of the nasopharynx, which can cause eustachian tubal obstruction. Okay, and finally, palatal defects. If you have a cleft palate, if you have a palatal paralysis, where you have a restricted movements and it causes mechanical obstruction of the or mechanical uh, if you have a problem with the eustachian tubal function. Okay, here I want to mention a very important point here, that in adults, if you find a otitis media with effusion, if a adult patient, if he comes to you with the hearing loss in the one ear due to this otitis media with effusion, the patient will have a conductive hearing loss. Why? Because there is a fluid in the middle ear, right? So with the fluid in the middle ear, he might be having some hearing loss. If a adult patient, if he comes to you with a hearing loss unilaterally, never ever send him without examining the nasopharynx. You have to have check the nasopharynx examination. Why? Because you can likely miss the nasopharynx tumors. What I mean to say in a simple words, if a patient comes to you with a unilateral otitis media with effusion, you have to check the nasopharynx. Without examining the nasopharynx, don't send him. You might encounter a tumor in the nasopharynx. So this is a very important. If a children comes to you with the otitis media with effusion, 90% he might be having adenoid hypertrophy in the nasopharynx. And if a adult patient, if he comes to you with the otitis media with effusion, please check the nasopharynx. He might be having a tumor of the nasopharynx. It might be a malignancy. Okay. Next, what are other etiological features? for the otitis media with effusion. The second most common cause is allergy. It can be a seasonal or perennial. Perennial and allergy means throughout the year you will be having allergic features. Okay, it might be due to inhalants or it might be due to foodstuff in the children. And this allergy, it causes a damage. It causes a damage to the mucociliary action of the nasopharynx and eustachian tubal function and eustachian tubal mucosa, and it causes a kind of edema over the eustachian tube. So it also causes obstruction of the eustachian tube. Okay, so middle ear mucosa here actually it causes a shock organ for the allergy. Okay, so if you have allergic features to anything, either it can be due to an inhalant or it can be due to a foodstuff, it causes a bit damage to the mucociliary action, so it leads to otitis media with effusion. And the next most common cause is unresolved otitis media. Unresolved means, for example, if you give a inadequate antibiotic treatment, for example, if a patient comes to you with a acute suppurative otitis media, and if you treat half only, means if the patient doesn't use medicines properly, or if that doesn't if you don't prescribe him a proper dosage, the low grade infection will be there and it acts as a stimulus for the mucosa to secrete more fluid. Okay, and the number of goblet cells in the mucosa will increase, and this causes again otitis media with effusion. Next most causes is viral infection. Due to repeated adeno and rhinoviruses of the upper respiratory tract infection, it causes mucociliary damage of the mucosa, and it stimulates the secretory activity due to increased goblet cells, and you have a fluid in the middle ear. Okay, so if I can brief the etiology, like the malfunction of the eustachian tube is most common. It can be due to adenoid hyperplasia, and it can be due to chronic rhinitis, tonsillitis, and benign and malignant tumors of the nasopharynx and palatal defects. And the second most common cause is allergy, which can be seasonal and perennial. It causes increased activity of the middle ear mucosa. And third one is improper treatment or unresolved otitis media due to inadequate antibiotic therapy. Okay, and the fourth one is viral infections due to, as you know very well, children are more prone for repeated upper respiratory tract infections. These repeated upper respiratory tract infections, they cause damage to the mucosa and leads to otitis media with effusion. Okay, so these are the etiology. Okay, right. As we discussed in what is pathology. So either it can be due to infection, allergy, it leads to damage to the mucociliary action, and in a case of nasopharyngeal tumors and eustachian tube block, it causes mechanical obstruction and mastoid pneumatization. Like, you know, if you have under mastoid pneumatization, means if you have a non-cellular, means sclerotic mastoids, where you have a decreased uh, functioning of the eustachian tube and middle ear mucosa, and sometimes few idiopathic causes. These are all contribute for the otitis media with effusion. What are the clinical features? Okay, where you can see this otitis media effusion and how a patient present to you, for what complaints you have to have a look. So the mainly this disease affects 5 to 8 years of the age most commonly, but it can affect any age. If you can see this, it is in adults. This is not I mean, this is also a common one. and in that cases you have to suspect the malignancy. How a patient present to you means, as we discussed, due to increased secretory activity of the middle ear mucosa, you will be having a fluid in the middle ear, right? So if you have a fluid in the middle ear, obviously you will be having some hearing loss. So there is a obstruction to the conductive mechanism. So there will be a hearing loss. So that patient presents to you with the hearing loss. Okay, and the hearing loss will be slowly, or it is in insidious onset, and most of the times the hearing loss will be around 40 decibels or below it. Okay, sometimes he cannot identify the hearing loss also. Accidentally you can pick up during the screening test. Okay, for children it can manifest as a delayed or defective speech. Why? Because if the children has otitis media with the effusion, the children may hear very low. I mean, he might be having a hard of hearing to some extent. He cannot hear properly, so he can perform very poorly in the classroom, and the same time, due to hearing loss, he might be having some delayed speech. No hearing means no speech development, isn't it? So he might be having some delayed and defective speech, and there might be a repeated attacks of the earaches. So that patient or that children complains earache or pain in the ear repeatedly. Right. What are the signs? What are the signs where you can suspect? How you suspect and what you see in a case of otitis media with effusion? First of all, the otoscopic examination. Okay, with the otoscope, what you can see means the tympanic membrane. You can see here the tympanic membrane is looking very dull. Okay, and can you see there is a loss of light reflex here? There is a light reflex or cone of light which is in anterior inferior quadrant. Here that is lost due to fluid in the middle ear. Okay, and the tympanic membrane sometimes you can see as yellow or bluish in color. Okay, and there is a thin leash of blood vessels over the handle of malleus, here over the handle of malleus, and at periphery of the tympanic membrane, here the periphery of the tympanic membrane. There is a thin leash of blood vessels. Okay, you can see, right? And the tympanic membrane may show a various kinds of retraction. Retraction means it goes inside due to pressure changes in the middle ear. Okay, right. And sometimes it might be a kind of, it show a kind of bulging also due to fluid, thick fluid in the middle ear. Okay, right. As it has fluid in the middle ear, you can see from the outside as tympanic membrane a fluid level and a air bubble shadow you can see. See here, can you see this fluid levels and a air shadow? So alternatively, you can see a fluid and air shadow in the middle ear. Right. So as we discussed already, the tympanic membrane is restricted. The movement will be restricted, and due to a kind of uh, due to negative pressure variations in the middle ear, the movement of the tympanic membrane is restricted. So how you know the movement of the tympanic membrane? You can check with the Siegel speculum. With the Siegel speculum, you can check the movement of the tympanic membrane, where in otitis media with effusion it is restricted. Okay, how you diagnose? How you diagnose? What are the tests you can do? So with the otoscopic findings, with the history, and with the clinical examination. In the clinical examination, you should look for hearing test. The hearing test with tuning fork test. Tuning fork test, like the Rinne test and the Weber test, it always shows a kind of conductive hearing loss. So in a case of conductive hearing loss, Rinne test shows negative, Rinne negative, and Weber should lateralize to the opposite ear. For example, if you have a conductive hearing loss in the right ear, so the Weber, it is lateralized to left ear. Okay, sorry, to the same ear. Uh, the Weber should lateralize to same ear, means diseased ear. For example, if you have a right ear hearing loss, conductive hearing loss, the Weber should lateralize to the same ear. For example, if you have both ear hearing loss, both ear conductive hearing loss, the Weber should lateralize to the more hearing loss, towards the more hearing loss ear. Okay, right. And next is audiometric findings. With the pure tone audiometry, you can see a 20 to 40 decibels hearing loss. Okay. Sometimes, very rarely, the fluid it sits over the round window membrane. In those cases, you can have a sensorineural hearing loss, but it is very rare. The most commonly 99.99% you will see a conductive hearing loss in the otitis media with the effusion. Okay. So for the diagnosis, apart from these hearing tests, you should take the uh, you should do the examination of the nasopharynx with the flexible nasoendoscope. Look for nasopharynx for the adenoid hypertrophy. In a case of adults, you should look for the nasopharynx for any malignancies. The most importantly, you should examine the fossa of Rosenmuller. Okay, sometimes there might be some antrochoinal polyp, the polyp which grows towards the nasopharynx, and it may cause some obstruction of the uh, eustachian tube. In those cases also you should look for nasopharynx, and you should go with a thorough diagnostic nasal endoscope. Okay, and then you should take the aid of x-rays. X-ray nasopharynx you should do for the hypertrophy of the uh, adenoid tissue. So this is how these are the tests which aid for the uh, diagnosis of the otitis media with effusion. And apart from the pure tone audiometry, you should have go for a impedance audiometry. Impedance audiometry is a objective test where you will examine with a put a probe into the ear, and you can pick the pressure variations in the middle ear. Okay, so if the presence of fluid is there, it causes reduction of the compliance, and there will be a flat curve. Okay, uh, so there are a variety of curves in the impedance audiometry. In otitis media with effusion, if you have a fluid in the middle ear, it shows B-type curve. If you have a eustachian tubule abnormality, you can see a C-type curve in the impedance audiometry. Okay. At the same time, you should take the X-ray of the mastoids. You should look for how these mastoid air cells are present. Okay. This is how you diagnose the otitis media with effusion. And let's come to management. How you are going to manage. Okay. First, always medical management. The medical management consists of a very good decongestant, topical decongestant in form of nasal drops and sprays. It causes relieve the edema over the eustachian tube. It causes decongestion, and vice versa. It causes the reduction of the edema over the eustachian tube. Okay, so you can use topical decongestions like oxymetazoline and xylometazoline. Okay, and the etiology, in etiology you will have a allergy as a etiological factor, so you can use anti-allergic measures like antihistamines, sometimes steroids. Okay, antihistamines like uh, cetirizine, levocetirizine, montelukast, cetirizine, levocetirizine, and fexofenadine, these are all antihistaminic drugs you have, and steroids also you can use in the allergy. And then you should give antibiotics also to fight against the upper respiratory tract infections. And you should establish the middle ear aeration, like the patient should repeatedly perform the Valsalva. Why Valsalva? Means it causes opening of the eustachian tubal mouth. So it helps ventilation of the middle ear, and it promotes the drainage of the fluid. So Valsalva maneuver, it is very important. In children, how you perform Valsalva means you encourage repeatedly chewing gums, okay, and swallowing. Next, when it comes to surgical treatment, where if you have a thick fluid, sometimes medical management is not helpful. Okay, in those cases, myringotomy and aspiration of the fluid is required. What is myringotomy means? A incision is made in the tympanic membrane and fluid is aspirated. Okay, the incision is made in the tympanic membrane. Where you will give incision means anterior inferior part. Okay, the thick mucus, sometimes it may not come out from the middle ear. So in those cases, you should give some saline drops or a mucolytic chymotrypsin drops into the middle ear. So it causes liquefy the mucus, and then you can aspirate easily. Okay. In some cases, you should give two separate incisions. One is in anterior inferior and another one is anterior superior quadrant, and you should press on the one and you should remove fluid from the another uh, incision. So it is called as beer can principle. Okay, right. Simply, if you don't treat the etiological factor and if you simply do a myringotomy, it fails. The surgery will be, I mean, again the fluid will accumulate. In those cases, we should insert a grommet. Okay, we should insert a grommet. What is grommet? It is a uh, thin made up of some material. You should you should place it in the myringotomy incision site, and you should leave as it is, and the excess fluid will drain through the grommet. Okay, and then as we discussed earlier, the causative factor, for example, if it is a adenoid tissue, you should take out the adenoid. So adenoidectomy is you should do. For example, if the etiological factor is chronic rhinosinusitis, you should do a surgery for chronic rhinosinusitis. Otherwise, if you don't remove the etiological factor, whatever the measures should you take, it will leads to failure. Okay. So apart from the myringotomy and grommet insertion, you should treat the etiological factor, like removal of the adenoid, removal of the tonsils, and sometimes you may require chronic to treat the chronic rhinosinusitis. You need to go for a endoscopic sinus surgery. Okay, right. Sequelae of the otitis media. If you don't treat, what happens? If you don't treat, it leads to atrophy of the tympanic membrane and atelectasis of the middle. Means the tympanic membrane will go and will touch the middle ear mucosa, and it causes a hearing loss and some other sequelae like ossicular necrosis. Means all the ossicles will be engulfed and you will have a more hearing loss, and the tympanic membrane will become tympanosclerosed. Sclerosis of the tympanic membrane means the hyaline, collagen, and chalky deposits will occur in the tympanic membrane, and it leads to fixation of the tympanic membrane. So you'll have a hearing loss, and sometimes this tympanic membrane will act due to this retraction. It acts as uh, a material for the cholesteatoma, and due to this retraction, the pars tensa may get invaginated to form a pocket for the cholesteatoma. Okay, and then sometimes the formation of the cholesterol granuloma will occur due to stasis of the secretions in the middle ear. Okay, so here I'll stop this lecture. If I memorize this